name's Elias, and I'm a birth father. I'm giving my child up for adoption. Most kids, they jump off the porch at about like 11, 12, 13. I jumped off the porch at 7 years old. I was the kid in the first and second grade that always went to school starving, hungry, dirty, tired, didn't have nowhere to go. I remember my very first time I ever made the decision to break the law. I was 7 years old and I broke into an ice cream truck. I was so hungry. I would go to the IGA that was on 19th Avenue in Osborne, and I would steal out of there every day. And I told myself that, you know what, nobody's ever gonna pay attention to me because I'm just a kid, so I can go in here and take anything that I want. And one day the security guard actually paid attention to me and I got caught for it. But then I just never stopped and changed who I was until just recently. I've always been in the streets. I always lived a rough life. On Christmas, on Thanksgiving, I sat alone on both holidays and had nobody there because everybody else was off with their family, and I have a family that don't care about me. I feel like adoption is like one of the best things that you could do for a person, especially when they can't have kids of their own, or when they come from a background like I do, where their family may have loved them at one time when they were a baby, but now that they're grown, don't nobody care about me, you know? And I don't want to have to look at one of my kids and resent them and feel like I can't take care of them, or I can't feed them, or they'll get subjected to being like me. If a person is subjected to being like me, then it's like there's no change in society. There's no bettering our world, and there's no future for our kids if they're like me. If I don't break the cycle, then like our future for me and for other people that are younger than me, it'll never change. We'll always be stuck with these kids that are bad, that don't care about going to school, that don't care about educating themselves, and don't care about nothing and nobody. And I don't want my children to be like that. I want them to be better than me and live a better life than me and get treated better than I got treated, and actually really get love from somebody who can't and is incapable of loving, and get it from somebody who is capable of doing so, who can't give that to themselves. So I just want to be the person to be able to give it to them. I was sitting in CB6. It's the prison that they have underneath the walls for the criminally insane. And I was sitting in there with no clothes and no hygiene, because they wouldn't give me hygiene. They don't give you hygiene. I have to wait an hour for 5 sheets of toilet paper. I can't brush my teeth, I can't wash my hands, I can't do anything, and my cell's just soaked in feces. And I'm sitting in there and I was telling myself, I don't ever want to have to let any of my kids be like this. To have to experience this because of the way that life made them. And I'm sitting in the cell by myself, and they would wheel the shower to me, and they would squeeze the shampoo and the soap into my hand to where I couldn't have them touch anything because everybody was afraid of me. And I would never want to have to let my kids be like that, especially any of my sons. I don't want them to be anything like me. You know, sometimes all it takes is just a little bit of love from an individual to be able to change a person. And this lady, she came to me and I was yelling and screaming about how dirty my cell was. And I was like, can I get something to clean it with? And she understood, and she actually brought me cleaning supplies. She wasn't allowed to, but she did it anyway. And she let me clean my cell. Just that little bit of compassion made me look and sit there and think about my life. When before I just didn't care, you know? I think it was that moment right there. There has to be a time in your life when you realize that everything that you've done out here, it means nothing. And that the only chance that you got is if you change the way that you are. Because if you don't change the way that you are, you leave yourself subjected to being in the streets, and your kids being in the streets, and everybody looking at you like you ain't nothing. And then at the end of the day, you realize that you haven't done nothing with your life. So what does that make you? It makes you nothing. Sometimes you just gotta make the change for yourself and for the future of your children to be able to be that strong individual that everybody needs. I lived a life where my mother was a prostitute, she was a crackhead, and the only thing that would separate between me and my mother and her trick was a little thin white sheet, and that was it. I have 13 brothers, and I was the only one there. I was the only one that would have to be subjected to things like that. I don't know where my other brothers would be, but I know that I was the only one that ended up in the room with my mother and the trick while they were getting high. Well, when I was in high school, I was literally like a nerd. I had no friends and nobody, and they had me in this thing. It was called the STAR program, and it was because I was so intelligent that the teachers had nothing for me. I was so far advanced than all the other students. They put me on a computer with the internet when it had first came out, and I would just be in there on the internet the whole time doing my schoolwork. I did a month worth of, a year's worth of math in 1 month. I was completely done. I was already in college halfway through my junior year. I took my very first course for anatomy and physiology halfway through my junior year in high school. Nope, I didn't. I went a different route. I took my mother and my brother off the streets when I was 17. My mother came to me and she was like, "Baby, I'm so tired of being out here. I don't want to hoe no more. I don't want to smoke crack no more. You know, my brother was on a perm fry at the time where he had did too much liquid acid, and he was just like real far gone, just like, you know, just like whacked out, and he couldn't take care of himself. You know, my mother was trying to take care of him, and she's like, I have nowhere to go. I'm tired, I'm hungry, I'm tired of doing this, I'm tired of doing that. So I took my mother and my brother off the streets when I was 17 years old. I ran away from the group home that I was in, and I went and got an apartment for him. I paid the last month's and 3 months worth of rent because I was working a job, you know. Yep. I actually got rescued when I was probably about like, I was like 13 or 14, and then when I was 17, I ran away. And I never looked back, and I was always this person. Don't be like me. Educate yourself, get a good job, find a career, and be good to your family. Love them and love hard. Just don't be like me. Yeah, this is the longest I've ever been out. Like literally, like normally I'm out for like, I give it about like 7 months tops. I'm back in the yard like real fast because normally I can't take it out here. I'm like so institutionalized that the only way that I could actually survive in life is if I'm on the yard, because that's all I know. Everybody there is like me, you know? And I feel comfortable there. I have a cell phone there. I have everything that's out there, that's out here, I have in there. Nothing different. It's like the best thing that you could do for yourself, knowing that your child has somewhere safe to sleep, someone loving to love them, that gives them all the opportunity in the world to do what they want with their life instead of what we subject them to. Because everything that we are is how our child and their personality becomes, because they're like sponges. They soak it all up. And subconsciously, that's who they choose to be, whether they know it or not. I think that's one of the most beautiful things you could do for an individual is have a child for them, because there's marriages where they know that they can't have kids and they end up losing their marriage because of this fact that this person can't conceive, you know? I think it's one of the best options, especially when if you can't feed yourself, there's no way you can feed your child. If you can't feed the woman that's next to you when she's pregnant, there's no way you can care for your child. I'm not saying that you can't love them and that you don't, but if you really love your children, and if you really love your woman, then adoption is one of the best things you can do for yourself and for your child, because it gives them that sense of security that you just can't do. And make yourself secure, give yourself that option, go for adoption.